Welcome back to Whitt. Today we're building a double stack aquarium rack for the new fish room. Before we get into it, I want to thank you all for being new subscribers here. We made it over 1,000 subscribers, and now we just have to get my watch time hours up before I can start making some money. But I have a lot of new plans for my fish room. I'm trying to make it a little bit more presentable, as well as making it easier to take care of, making it less maintenance, and just making it look better. So I've been doing a lot of small side projects preparing for the new fish room. So coming right into the fish room, we have my two ponds. This one has a 5-gallon bucket bog filter running on it, and all it really has is a couple minnows in there, some rosy reds that I just threw in there, and a bunch of duckweed floating on there. Above that, we have the quarantine tank with the 3 silver dollars and the 2 African albino clawed frogs. Not the dwarf frogs, they are the African clawed frogs. Right beside that, we have the cichlid pond. It's a 75-gallon tub here. It can hold about 100 gallons, but it's not filled up to the rim. We have Balthazar the Oscar fish in here, as well as Seve the gold severum that just kind of swam away underneath that rock. We have an intake box in there up to a big tote bog filter that's running pretty good here. Could use like a protein skimmer or something on top of there, but it's running really well for this pond. I don't really have to do any water changes or clean outs, as well as with any of my ponds. This one's probably the worst tank. It's just a regular gravel tanks, but it's the quarantine tank, so I don't want any or too much in there. But they've spent a lot of time in this quarantine tank, and it's actually time that they get moved out. I bought a bunch of plants on the Petco sale, and I just threw them into the betta bowl here just to put them into water. And I also have some of the baby guppies that I threw in here just to have a little bit of movement and something going on. We also have a gold Inca snail in there as well. The mystery snail, I think, crawled out. I put 2 mystery snails in there and one died. You can see him right there. But I think the other one crawled out and disappeared. I'm not sure where he went. But I have to do some moving around before I rescape this tank, so it's just holding those baby guppies for now, as well as the plants, keeping them alive. And then I'm going to be rescaping this and turning it into a planted betta bowl again. Over here on the side, we have the guppy breeding pond, and as you can see here in all my tanks right now, I have some cuttings of pothos, and it's just actually sitting here trying to root out. And this one is starting to put out some white roots, just starting. They've been in almost a week now, so I'm just trying to get those to grow out, and then I'll be planting them in all my tanks. But this one's been pretty stable and steady since we put it in. We have another live plant over there in a little pot, as well as some of this floating wisteria that never seems to be growing. But I'm thinking about doing a full redesign on this guppy pond and putting a bigger plant in here. I might have to get rid of this shelf and do a little bit of redesign here, but this one's going to get redone into a big planter. Big I don't know, peace lily or something coming out of the top there, and then all the guppies will swim in there, and that'll be a big filter system for this. And then we have my main center tank here. This is the first tank I actually ever set up. This has Scar, my angelfish, in here. He's a marbled black angelfish. And then we have 2 corridoras swimming around in there, as well as 1 nearite snail. I used to have a lot more in here because when I designed my tanks originally, I wanted a full ecosystem tank. So I wanted live plants in all my tanks and a full ecosystem from the ground up, but I didn't really understand everything I needed to understand to get that and make that happen. So this is a very deep substrate tank. It has aqua soil in there and then heavy layer of the pea gravel. So you can see all that pea gravel, and you can see the malm layer that's been cooking up in there for about a year or 2 years now. And I have been overfeeding a little bit, so you can see some of the algae up on the glass there, but I just clean that up whenever it gets a little bit too much. I really don't do any water changes or gravel vacuuming on my tanks. The one that I do that with is the quarantine tank, because it doesn't have any deep substrate or anything going on or any live plants in there. So that's really just a glass box of water. So that one gets water changes as well as swept with the gravel vac. But I do want to do a full redesign with this 29-gallon tank that Scar is in and try and get it more planted out and get a better base in there, because right now I don't have much plant growth going on. It's just a deep substrate. And I found a little skinny stand that was at my grandma's house that now I can use here as a little fish feeder stand. I think that works out pretty well right beside this center tank. I also think I might put the quarantine tank underneath this 29-gallon, because it'll fit on this stand right there. So I might be adding a 20-gallon right here. But I also already had a rack up in storage in the shed that would hold a 20-gallon tall. So at Petco's 50% off sale, I went out and picked up 2 20-gallon talls. So I used to have this black cabinet here right where this 20-gallon rack is, and the guitar right above it, and I just kind of rotated that around the corner, made space for this rack. It fit right in place there perfectly. Then I had some live edge walnut wood that was already planed down, so I cut that to size and fit that right on top there and on the bottom here to give it a nice base to sit on. Then I had some more live edge wood, a shelf, and this cool old light that I mounted up here just to tie the whole thing together. I'll be able to put some fish food and stuff up on this shelf. I just had to put the books up there to hold it down for glue. But I think it ties it in really nice, and that's going to be a nice area for the 20-gallon rack once it's all filled out and lit up. I don't know how much I said it before, but I'm really into micro ecosystems. So I tried something out with some terrariums, and I actually made my first terrarium, so we'll take a look at that. But then I took jars here, and this jar is from my pond with a little bit of algae and gravel in there, and there is a baby snail living in there somewhere. And then I took some pond water from my friend's pond and some soil and leaves and stuff, and there is some slugs or leeches or something in this one, as well as some snails crawling around. Did just see a snail. Ooh, I haven't moved these. A lot of gas exchange just happened right there. About this one, not as much. This one is from my field pond, so this one is a lot dirtier. It's from a straight clay pond. My pond's lined and his pond is spring fed, so it's just constant water. But I have these sitting up here to get some light, and my terrarium that I just built. This was my first terrarium try ever. This one is a hollow stump log, like a rotted stump is what I was going for. And it's just in the woods and some plants around it. I just grabbed everything that I already had. I walked through my brother's woods and found some materials for this and grabbed some stuff I had around the property. Yeah, I didn't have to buy anything for this. I already had the jar, so it was really fun to make. So I have a lot of other different jars that I'm going to be trying to make some terrariums out of. So that's going to be some future videos. If you want to see that, make sure you comment down below. Let me know. I kind of turned this table into a terrarium setup or workstation here. And I have this jar right here that has a flat bottom. So it has this flat edge on it that will let it sit. So if I just put some weight in the bottom, it'll sit perfect. And I think that'll make a really nice terrarium. Let me know. What do you think? And I'm thinking after we move some things, right here next to the door is going to be the best place for the big rack that we're building. I have some materials sitting out here. These are actually buckets of pond soil I got from my friend's pond. I'm not sure if I let it sit too long, but what's it smell like, pup? Does it smell good? Does it smell all foresty, huh? You want it to smell foresty, not all scummy and composty. So like I said, there's a lot of little things that I'm working on to try and get this ready for the fish room that I haven't been able to make an actual video on that. Like this kiddie pool right here. This is full of wood that I found in the woods up at my brother's property as well as around my property, and I'm just soaking it in here, not to really clean it up, but to get it to saturate with water. So once it gets saturated with water, it'll sink in the aquarium. If you ever put wood that you find or driftwood that you buy in an aquarium and then fill it up with water, it'll float and destroy your scape. So I'm letting that stuff soak right now. And beside that, we also have the two big tanks that I just got. Ooh. I got this 55-gallon off of Facebook Marketplace. Someone was selling it for $30 because it has a leak. Well, I filled it up and I have not been able to find a leak in this. This has been filled up for a full week straight. It was dry. I emptied it completely, dried it all out, swept it out with a shop vac to get all the sand and stuff out because she used it for readier sliders. I stuck it on this rubber mat and a full sheet of plywood to make the base nice and level and even. And then I filled it up with water again next to the 75-gallon that I bought from Petco at the 50% off sale. What is it, puppy? We got a big old tank. And these guys have been filled up for over a week now, and it just rained today, so I would show you that the plywood was still dry all the way around it, but it rained today, so obviously the plywood's all wet. But these have been perfectly fine. I don't see a leak in either one of them. And that brings me to the actual objective of this video, building the stand. And I did already get started. I didn't know what wood I was going to use. I was thinking I might have to go buy wood, which is not something I like to do. I like to use things that I already have available to me. And while helping my brother clean out his basement, he actually bought the house that my dad grew up in, so it has all my grandma's old stuff, so anything in there that he doesn't want I kind of take. And he had some wooden shelves down there made out of 2x4s, 12-foot shelves, and he said if you want to take them all apart, pull all the nails out, you can have the wood and I did. It's all dry 2x4, so it's going to be best if I pre-drill this stuff before I put any screws in. But it's still good solid wood with a lot of strength in it, and it's been kept in a dry basement for its whole life, so it's all ready to use. I got the boards home, and then the next morning the power actually went out, so I couldn't do what I was planning on doing, so I sat here and took all the nails out of the boards and stacked them up. And then later that evening I had about an hour before I closed up the barn, so I got the drop saw out, set up a little stand, and cut all the boards I needed to length so I could build it as a kit. And my dad actually picked up a big pumpkin on their ventures. My mom and dad went camping and they found these big pumpkins for sale. They were real cheap, like 25 bucks for this big thing, and it's got to be at least 50 pounds. Hey little bee, what are you doing, getting a drink? Hi buddy. But we think it'll be fun to give this as a last farewell feeding to the pigs. So we're going to keep it for decoration for a while, and then we're going to smash it for the pigs. Got to come up to the barn to grab some of my tools, and Puppy's hunting now. Anything in here? No. Puppy. It's the daily struggles here. Puppy's always hunting something. Something inside? Nothing inside. Something ran through here once, huh, Pop? Nope, nothing in that one. Uh-oh. You missed it. I've been trying to get a lot of stuff organized up here in the top of the barn, but I don't have a work table yet, so there's still some mess. You ready, Pup? It's starting to rain again. Goats, what are you doing out in the rain? Last night in the dark, me and my dad got the tarp on top of the turkey hut, so the turkey are actually in there right now. I haven't got them outside into the pen yet, but if you want to see them outside in the pen, make sure to follow along my Whitt Acres Homestead channel down below. Goats, I got work to do down at the house, buds. I'm sorry, we can't hang out today. Hey, Sedgwig. Birds, what are y'all doing? You out in the rain, ducks? Hey, turkey. Yeah, I hear ya. Got him. I already got started out here on building the new rack. This rack is going to be holding a 75-gallon tank on top and a 55-gallon tank on the lower shelf. I'm going to be holding that lower shelf about 15 inches up off the ground. So for one, it's not on the ground because it's going to be in a basement, and if the basement floods, I don't want it being right at that level. As well as I want it held up off the ground for just better viewing and easier access into it. And I also have some drawers that I'm going to be putting underneath for storage as well, just to maximize the space completely. Then yesterday after work, I was able to set the GoPro up and start putting all the pieces together. Oh, puppy, clean your eyes up. You got dirty eyes, bud. Yeah, here you go. Clean them up. What is that? What's that noise? Is that one of my birds? Wild bird.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back.
Oh, that's got to be a killdeer. That's what that is. Puppy, it's just a killdeer. But after we attach the legs to the shelves here, we put the legs right on the inside of the corner. After that, we put supports underneath the front here all the way down and the side here to support the shelf, so the shelf isn't just sitting on the screws and the glue, it's also sitting on a full piece of wood around the corner braced, and that's on all four corners obviously to keep it all the same and strong. And then we also have the same thing underneath the bottom shelf here, the 2x4 supporting the 2x4s. And then I have 2 sheets of plywood there. I just need to fit on the top here and then notch out the legs there so I can fit it on the bottom. So I never really see anybody else adding angle support to this. I figure that they have enough support just from the 2x4s being all sandwiched together around the legs. And we also have the bracing in the middle here to hold everything square. But my dad loves angle supports on things, especially 45. So right on cue, he asked me, where's the angle support? And I don't want to put any on this middle level here because that's just going to block the sides of the tank that I want to see in on the 55 gallon. Don't really have anything up there to touch. But down below, I probably can get some angle supports right here between the legs just to add a little bit of extra support for them to not buckle in. So I'll probably just add a little angle support, probably from corner to corner, just on one corner to corner. I don't think I need to do the full X there, but just one angle support in there just to hold the legs where they should be so they don't do any buckling. And I'm going to be putting drawers in here. I have 2 sets of drawers that's going to actually fit right in here perfectly. So I don't want to put anything across the front, but I might be able to put something across the back. We'll see how it goes, see if it really needs it. I don't think it does, but we might do it. I'm sorry for the lighting in here, but it's raining outside and I'm working with dry wood here. I have to pre-drill everything so I don't split the wood, but it's free wood, so it's just as strong as it needs to be to hold the tanks up. I just have to make sure I use it the way it needs to be used. And this is dry. Ow. We are going to have to seal this since it's such a dry wood, and I'm thinking about burning it. That might give it the best waterproofing. I'm going to burn it and then paint it because I did the burn feature. I tried it over there on the patio with a spare piece of wood. I burned it. I stained it with black ebony stain, and it's not dark enough. I want it to be completely black, and that's just not doing it. But I think the burning technique is a good way to waterproof it. So what I'm going to do is burn the whole thing and then give it a light sanding, prime it off, and then paint it black. That'll give it a nice waterproofing to the wood underneath it, almost like it's a treated wood. It will technically be treated, but it won't be chemically and pressure treated. There is some name for the Japanese method of burning wood to preserve it, but we're not going to be doing it the traditional Japanese way. We're going to be doing it the quick American way with a torch. So I'm going to finish putting in all the screws that I don't have in yet. I just put in what I had available so I could get all the glue to stick. And now that I have some more screws, I'm going to finish all that off so it has all the support it needs. And then we're going to be adding the plywood to the shelves. I'll get my angles cut and attached. Then we can move on to burning it. Not even close. Nope. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. And if it fits on this side, I can just cut a template. That'll do. Up up. Perfect. And the top here is fitting good enough for me. You falling asleep, pup? This lower shelf is going to be a little more difficult having to notch around these legs, but we'll figure it out. raining out there, pup. What are you doing? Hopefully we're collecting some water. She don't fit. Take two. Nice. I think that is a pretty good fit. We do have a little gap there because these boards aren't completely square, but I think that's a pretty tight fit. You're not going to really be looking at that once the tank's in here and it's all painted. Now pop. I was just thinking about it. If you wanted to be real thorough, you could probably burn all of this before you start putting the pieces together, but I ain't got time for that. Alright, well my phone died and I had to charge it up, and while that was happening I got the whole thing sanded down and dusted off with the leaf blower. And now I'm out here burning the legs. I'm starting with the legs because all I have is this small torch, and I want to do something different with the bottom of the legs so they can get weatherproofed with some rubber coating instead of just paint. And then I'm going to paint the rest. But I want to get these bottom ones done since I'm using a different product. But I'm going real slow here, real close, and getting it real black. Just trying to get it as dark as I can without actually catching it all on fire. If you do hit a sap line, that thing will catch on fire though, so you got to be careful with that. But you can burn most of it out and then you can sand it off. But right now we're getting all the legs burnt, and then we're going to get them all coated with a rubber coating. This is satisfying to do though. That's what I'm going for here, is just a good char across the whole thing. Just doing the legs for now, and then we'll get the rest of it. Alright, I got the whole bottom burnt now with a little torch because I can't find the big torch. And then I sprayed this Gorilla waterproof patch and seal all across the bottom 4 inches of the feet, just to add a little bit extra waterproofing. It's going to be in my basement, and my basement has flooded before, so just a little bit extra water protection won't hurt. But now I got to let that dry before I flip it over and do the rest. Well, I got the underneath actually burned with the little torch and the little propane tank, and I even did the underneath of the top shelf. That way I could rubber coat the bottom 4 inches of each foot, and then I could stand it back up and do the rest while it stands in place. And instead of using the little torch to finish it off, we have the big torch to finish it off. This is going to make it go 10 times as fast. Fire safety puppy. Back up, back up. life. It's all black now, and I'm thinking it's going to even be better if I do the black ebony stain instead of doing the black paint. I think it'll be just fine with the black ebony stain. So once this cools down, maybe tomorrow, I'll get this all stained up. Alright, I just finished staining the new big rack aquarium stand and it looks great. I ended up going with the ebony black oil-based Minwax stain. I wasn't sure this was going to make it dark enough, but I ended up not sanding it after I burned it this second time. I burned it yesterday and then I burned it again today just because it was a little bit light whenever I saw it in the sunlight. So I wanted to darken it up just a little bit more, and then I didn't sand it before I put the stain on, hoping that that black soot would actually add to the dark pigment, and it darkened it up a lot more than my test boards. This turned out pretty black. I am happy how dark this is. I didn't want this to be too showy or glossy because it's going to have the aquariums on it, and I just want this to blend into the background so the aquariums can be the feature. I also have the rubber coating on the feet, so that should help if we get any flooding or spillage in the basement. One thing I did have to do with this, because my 2x4s were wider than they were thick, whenever I sandwiched the two on this side and then tried to cap it with this one, the cap was a little bit wider than the two that were thick. And just with that little bit hanging over, it ended up making it too much to where my tank wouldn't fit. So I had to take all four of those cap boards off, unscrew them, rip the glue off with a pry bar, and then rip just the tiniest little 1/8 of an inch off each one, so that now the edge fits flush and I'll be able to fit the whole tank in there. It's going to be a tight fit, but now that I cut this, I think I'm going to be able to fit it. You can see what I'm talking about here on the bottom. That cap board hangs off a little bit, and then I had to make it flush on the top here. So hang it over, and now it's flush. So that's because the tank's going up here, obviously. Up. And I ended up putting the whole quart of ebony stain on here. It really sucked it in and darkened up just perfectly. Since this is an oil-based stain, I'm gonna have to leave this dry for at least 24 hours before I bring it inside, or it's just gonna stink. So I'm gonna be moving it into the shed tonight so it can finish drying. And then in a future video, we're gonna be getting it inside in position and getting the tanks on it and all set up. The pond's been getting a little bit of algae because we had some sunny days, but we're really cooling down now, so I don't think it's gonna be growing anymore. But the flowers still look nice out here. And the fish are doing well. We have all the koi still in here. You can see Betty White. I don't know where Goldie Hawn is right now, but I just saw her earlier. Then we have Yang right there, and Dorothy's probably in a cave. Oh, I see Goldie Hawn right now, and Dorothy right there. Yep, there they go. And I'm sure the largemouth bass is in there. I just saw her earlier. Oh, Pop, you like the fish out here? Yeah. And check out the tannins building up in the kiddie pool water that I have my driftwood soaking in. It's not really driftwood, I just found it out in the woods. I'm soaking it in the pool not only to get some of those tannins out so it doesn't discolor the water as much, but mainly to saturate the wood and get it to sink so it doesn't float up whenever I put it into a skate. This one was a little bit bigger, so I threw that in the 55 gallon. Look at the color difference that it made to the water. The 75 gallon is still crystal clear, and then look at the tannins on the 55 gallon. That actually might end up going into the 55 gallon if I can make it fit. If it's too big, I might have to put it into the 75, but that one's definitely going in one of them. I have all my materials out here to scape the 20 gallon rack inside. So that's actually probably going to be next video, doing the 20 gallon rack. So if you want to see that and follow along with all the new scapes that we're building here in the new fish room, make sure to subscribe down below. Hit that like button before you leave, and you can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching.